Welcome back. Today's broadcast is going to be about isolated echoes, a journey through loneliness. This broadcast can be seen every Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. That was a new song from me and Big Brother Jahi, one of our newest hits. I hope you guys are feeling that one. And I must say, we do not own the copyrights to that song. I repeat, we do not own the copyrights to that song. Tell everyone this is a must-see broadcast. And with that being said, I appreciate everyone. I want to go ahead and bring on Big Brother. I know he's patiently waiting in the background. Come on out.
Chaz, I thought you had something you were supposed to have been saying, man. I want you to talk to the people. Don't you want to read something to the people real quick about loneliness?
Yes. There is something called In Shadows Deep, where silence weaves, a solitary soul where the heart conceives. Loneliness, a haunting tune, echoes in the quiet of a lonely room. In the vast expanse of a solitude's art, a symphony of longing, tearing apart, isolation's dance, a silent plea, aching hearts yearn to be set free. Join us now as we explore the depths of loneliness furthermore. In shared words, a refuge found in this broadcast, Hearts Unbound.
Wow, Chaz, that is beautiful because that's telling us what we need to know. And that is many of us have run from this subject for many, many years, but we can't run anymore because loneliness has done great disservice to us because we don't know how to cope with it. We don't know how to deal with it. A lot of us, as I said earlier, we run from it, and we've all these years, we may be smiling, but inside we're hurting because we're lonely. And so let's talk about that today because loneliness leads to many issues. And let's begin the process by just talking about what loneliness is, Chaz.
Loneliness, a feeling of sadness because one has no one. This is a big topic, and I think a lot of us men can deal with this personally, but I want to touch on a lot of African-American sisters or just women in general. When they don't have a significant other, they feel like the world has come to an end. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want anybody to call their phones. And it's just a sad situation to where we should be able to love ourselves. But if we can't have a companion, it's like we just lose our minds. And once again, I hate to break this to people. Everyone is not going to always have someone that they're going to ride into the sunset with, get married, that doesn't always happen. So you have to be prepared for a life if that doesn't happen.
And let's talk about too, Chaz, the ideal of not so much relationally, because we understand everybody wants a companion, but we're talking about these feelings that we're here all by ourselves, and we're battling the whole world, and we're fighting against everything, and there's no one here, and we're just so depressed, and we're dejected. We're saddened, and this is why most of us don't want to have this discussion because many of us don't know how to cope with loneliness because we've never had a broadcast or someone teach us that you are who you are and you have all you need on the inside of you. Why do we go to church? Why do we go to the mosque? Why do we go to the spiritual meetings? And yet, why do we say we have a deity or a God inside of us, but yet we suffer with loneliness, Chaz? Why is that?
Well, because like you just mentioned, we say that we're going to church when we go on all these things, but we don't really believe in it. And then once again, it's something that can't be run away from because everybody goes through this in a period of their life. And it's just something that you got to come to grips with. You just dialed up something else on the screen. It says common signs of loneliness. And let's take the relationships out. Let's see here, social withdrawals, avoiding social activities and interactions with others. Yes, the reason why we avoid these places is from anxiety, fear, rejection, or low self-worth.
Yeah, loneliness, it bites us in the you know what, because when we're lonely, we don't want to be around people. So we say, I don't want to be around them because these people are messy. But the bottom line is, it's not so much that the people are messy. The bottom line is we're lonely, Chaz. And we don't want to admit that we don't know how to deal with our loneliness. So we put it off on other people. And so we don't want to do anything. So we avoid social activities. We avoid talking to other people, and we sit around these houses, we sit around the apartments, and we become nothing more than just hermits in a house, in an apartment by ourselves, and yet we're suffering from loneliness, and yet
Yeah.
we don't even want to acknowledge that. That's what our problem is, man.
Yes. You dial up another one on the screen. Number 2, isolation. Physical isolation from friends, family, or people is a clear sign of loneliness.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. And once again, there's nothing wrong with going and saying, you know what? I'll go over my cousin Shelly's house today. She's a good relative. I haven't seen her in a while. I don't have anything else to do. She doesn't have anything else to do. So let's just, get together and watch a couple of television shows. It's nothing wrong with that. But I think, brother, when we find ourselves isolated and lonely, I think we feel that other people are going to feel the way we feel about ourselves. That's why we shuck and jive away from them.
Yeah, and we don't want to be around people. That's one of the signs of loneliness. If you see a person that doesn't have friends, they don't want to be around their family, they don't want to be around loved ones, they don't want to be around their coworkers, they don't want to be around anybody, that's an indication of a person who's dealing with this thing called loneliness. And we're here tonight so that we can help all of us cope with loneliness, because we all get lonely at times. But our problem is we drown in loneliness and we don't know what to do with it. And this is why we want to shy away from our friends. We want to shy away from our family. And being away from people is a definitely clear sign of loneliness.
Decreased communication, infrequent connections with others in the world. And brother, something just popped in my head as you went to this next slide. If on the other one, I would say this too. When we're lonely, it's a dangerous time to be alone, because you know what? We start picking up terrible habits.
Okay.
The drug abuse goes up, the alcohol abuse goes up. Wow. And some of these substances, we find ourselves indulging in them very hard because we feel like this is the only way we can get pleasure out of our loneliness. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I have something to say about that. I want to put something on the screen so we can see this. And this is a sad image. It's not really funny. It's an image of a young lady who is probably dealing with issues, and we all have issues, but we allow our issues to get us to be withdrawn, and we don't want to be around people, and so we don't want to communicate with people. So infrequent connections with others in the world, and so we suffer. We put this on ourselves, Chazz. This is a thinking that a lot of us have not been able to get over. And what we do is we drown ourselves in sorrow, in pity. And so this is why most of us who deal with this, we don't know what to do with it. And so we end up like this young sister who sits around and thinks negative thoughts. We think the world is after us. We don't want to be bothered. We want to live in our own world. And these are the things that bothers us psychologically, emotionally. And that's why a lot of us are the way we are now, because we don't know how to deal with loneliness, Chazz. And that's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about. But loneliness is something that we should discuss, because many of us do this.
Number 4, lack of interest in hobbies. Now, when we get to the spot, when we are lonely, I think a lot of our motivation and our drive, it just goes out the window, because like, oh, what the heck? It's nothing else to really live for. I'm depressed. I'm sad. There's nobody here to help me. So I'm not going to do anything that I enjoy. I'll just rather sit at home, cut off the blinds, excuse me, watch TV, and just eat ice cream and just, let myself go. And lack of interest, these are things that help you combat your loneliness. So if you do have hobbies, indulge, get into them, because that's how you're going to get out of this rut or situation.
I want to say this too, Chazz. Loneliness has caused many of us to become sick. And when I say sick, we are mentally sick, because we don't want to look at the mindset and see what loneliness and the lack of dealing with it, what it has done to us. So we don't want any interest. We don't want any hobbies. We don't want to find things to do. We don't want to get out of the house. We don't want to get out of the apartment. All we want to do is sit around and drown in this loneliness. And this is not a life that is normal. This is an insane life, Chazz, but we have normalized it. And so that's why a lot of us don't want to do anything, because we're lonely. And instead of dealing with loneliness, We just say, well, I just don't want to be bothered. And that's why
Yes.
we have problems.
I got a real quick to say something about this one. Number 5, change in sleeping patterns. Loneliness affects sleep, leading to other insomnia or oversleeping. Now, I put on my notes here. When we have these issues of loneliness, and I'm here to call myself out as well because I used to do this in the past. We go to CVS and
Mhm.
we try to buy the strongest sleeping pills that we can get, because when we take these sleeping pills, it helps us sleep longer. We
Mhm.
feel like we can avoid our problems, we can
Teach,
avoid
Chaz, teach.
depression.
Yeah,
So
teach.
this is why we go to Walgreens, and I'm pretty sure if you look at their sales off the shelves, these sleeping pills, these things are flying because people are. This is where people are turning to when they are depressed and lonely.
We want to get away from the real world. We want to live in a fantasy world. We want to live in a world where we're not bothered. So, see, sleep, no one bothers us when we sleep. And
Right,
so we enjoy sleeping because we don't have to deal with people. And
right.
because we don't know how to deal with people, we rather just sleep our lives away instead of dealing with the fact
Wow.
that I am a lonely man. I'm very lonely. And this is why I'm sleeping so much. And this is why I have these issues, is because I know that in my heart I'm struggling. And instead of dealing with this as we're talking about, we don't deal with it. And it leads to this number 6. Loneliness, one sign is negative emotions. We're always feeling sad. We're always feeling empty. We're dejected. We're hopeless. We're depressed. And so, what I'm trying to get us to see is we shouldn't be that way, Chaz. And this broadcast is to help people. It's
Right,
not to hurt people, because a
right.
lot of us suffer with loneliness, but we don't want to be honest. Because I'm going to say this, Chaz, and I'll let you talk about this.
Okay.
The opposite of loneliness is contentment. The opposite of loneliness is contentment. But some people aren't content in this life, man. I'm trying to tell you
Mm.
that many of us are not content. So we are miserable. We are unhappy. We are sorrowful. We are depressed. We are troubled. We are blue. And this causes mental agony. And this is why we are dispirited and dejected, because we have not dealt with this loneliness. And I'm going to show an image in a few where a person is smiling, but they're still lonely, because loneliness is on the inside. Do you have anything to say about how negative we can become? We're lonely, and instead of dealing with loneliness, we just become negative and bitter.
Yes, I was going to ask you too, real quick. I feel like it kind of ties into something else. Another point: when we're in this situation, we're sad, depressed, hopeless. We kind of reach out, or we're always looking for others' approval or opinions about ourselves
Yes,
to
sir.
make
Yes, sir.
ourselves feel better.
Yes,
And I
sir.
know
Yes, sir.
that was in our notes a little bit later, and I just want to touch on that because they go hand in hand. When we are in these spots, we constantly, and I know a lot of people that I know, it's like they're looking for someone to make
Yeah,
them feel
yeah,
better. And
yeah,
it's no
yeah.
knock on them, but
Mhm.
it goes hand in hand, though, I would agree.
But the person that they're looking for, they already have. You came in this world by yourself, Chaz. You're going to leave by yourself. And if your deity and yourself is not good enough, then who is going to save you, Chaz? There are no saviors out there to save you. You are the one that's responsible for your happiness. You can make yourself be happy, or you can be lonely with the way you think about life, about yourself, about people, about the world. And so instead of being happy, we become negative because we're lonely and we don't know how to deal with this thing called loneliness. And I know you want to say something about this next one right there.
Oh, and see, I had
Loneliness
that on
causes
my
this.
notes to throw that to you. Number 7, increased TV or screen time, excessive use of electronic devices. I don't want. I beat this drum enough. I'll pass this one to you, and then I'll come back after you. I'll let you go ahead because I'll make myself clear on this one. We'll go for it.
Okay, I want to make myself clear on this. Tonight's subject is called Isolated Echoes, a journey through loneliness. Many of us are very lonely and we don't think we are, but you're lonely and I'm lonely. And we don't know how to deal with loneliness. So instead of doing things that's going to help the spirit, to help the soul, to help the mind, to help the heart, to elevate consciousness, we begin to get on social media, Chaz,
Uh
and
oh.
yeah, we do. This is why most of us are on we're on this cell phone 24/7. We're on this
Yes.
cell phone 24/7 because
Yeah.
we're lonely, man. We're reaching out because we're lonely. We want people to love us,
Yeah.
We want people to notice us. We
Yeah.
begin to have these girlfriends and boyfriends online, and these people don't even know we exist, but in our hearts we've
Wow.
fallen in love with them because loneliness, and it has made us. A lot of people watch TV because they're lonely. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are on social media because they're lonely. This, I know a lot of married men that are lonely. I know a
Okay.
lot of married women that are lonely. I know a lot of single people that are lonely, men and women. I know a lot of teenagers that are lonely. A lot of us are lonely in the African American community, and we don't want to have this discussion because we're too busy trying to medicate ourselves or dope ourselves up or drink ourselves up or sing ourselves up or chirp ourselves up or spiritualize ourselves up or Islam ourselves up or Christianity ourselves up. And so this is a cop out. But the bottom line is, man, we're lonely, and that's why we're spending a lot of time on these devices.
Yes, and I would even take it a step further past social media. I would say just on the phone in general, when we're constantly on emails, emailing people about gossip, talking about people with gossip, or just our phones in general, brother. Anytime we're on our phone for more than 4 or 5 hours a day, we're looking for something, and that's how we get into trouble. We're always in other people's business. We're always on social media platforms trying to get some drama started.
Yeah, you
Uh,
teach.
it, it's terrible.
Can I just put it out like this? That means that we're not happy. We're not
Okay.
happy, man. That's
Okay.
we're not happy. And so this brings us a temporary fulfillment, but inside our hearts is empty. There are little babies, little kids that we should be teaching how to deal with loneliness. Churches should be teaching how to deal with loneliness. Mosques should be teaching how to deal with loneliness. Spirituality should be teaching how to deal with loneliness. But we're too busy trying to get people's money and make them feel good and make them sing songs to get them happy. When it boils down to, Chazz, we're dealing with a people who have this next problem, which is what is really killing us when it comes to loneliness.
Number 8, low self-esteem. Loneliness may contribute to decline in self-esteem and self-worth. And I want to add this one into that equation:
Okay.
self-deletion. We
Wow.
are killing ourselves,
Wow.
brother. This is something, and I hate to jump ahead, but I have to, brother. We are deleting ourselves at an alarming rate because of loneliness. When we have no one to look to, we have no boyfriend or girlfriend, we have nothing to look forward to. So the last option we say is, damn it, I want to leave this earth. And we just self-delete. And here you go. You have a relative one day, they come and check up on you. You think you're in the bed. That person's brain is blown out. I mean, brother, this is just some terrible news, but suicide has to be talked about because, brother, especially our teenagers, they're killing themselves at a high rate.
Well, I'm going to say something, and I'm going to put up a chart that you just talked about, because you're right. Suicide in the African American community with our teenagers is at an alarming rate, but none of us seem to care about it, Chazz.
Wow.
And what I'm trying to say is, even in relationships, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, they cannot fulfill the void that you really need. Only you can fill that void. Only we can fulfill that void. But because we don't know who we are as a people, because we don't have identity, most of us, our children are suffering. We are suffering because we're too busy doing other things other than watching educational broadcasts and podcasts that's going to help us deal with this low self-esteem that loneliness has gotten us into. And this is why we are, many of us, the way we are. Now, you just mentioned something, Chazz, and I must share this screen right now because this is very important when it comes to talking about those of us who are dealing with loneliness when it comes to us as African Americans. Now, let me tell you something. Some of you may not be able to see this particular chart, but it's called Pediatrics Nationwide, Ground Zero Approach. Now, I'm showing you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different blocks in this. It says Understanding Black Youth Suicide. In December 2019, the Congressional Black Caucus released a statement saying, ring the alarm, ring the alarm. The crisis of Black youth suicide in America. This statement focused, Chazz, on the rising suicide rate among Black youth in the United States. Understanding suicide is killing our kids, our babies. Wow. The rate of suicide, this is what this first one says here. The rate of suicide in Black youth, 13 years old, is approximately 2 times higher compared to white peers. See, we don't want to hear this, Chazz. This is what's wrong with us now. Look at this one. Suicide was the 5th leading cause of death among Black youth from the ages of 5 to 18 years old in 2008. But now it's the 3rd cause of death among Black youth ages 5 to 18, man. They
Oh my
listen, the
goodness.
percentage of Black high school students who considered suicide, it increased from 12.95 to 16.89%. And finally, Black high school students who attempted suicide, they have increased their attempts from 7.94 to 11.85%. And much
Wow.
of this is because of loneliness, Chaz. Why
Wow.
are we talking about loneliness, and why
Wow.
aren't we doing something about loneliness? Our babies are dying. Our youth are committing suicide. And yet we're too busy talking about comedians arguing on social media and who we want to be around, which comedian we is telling the truth when we're dying, man. We're so
Yes.
immature. And so I
Yes.
need you to talk about how loneliness is ripping us apart, man. And yet we're not
Yes.
hearing it enough.
Yes, and there are phone numbers you can call. This is a serious topic. If you are under this terrible suicidal problem,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
numbers you can call. These are people who are on the phone
Hotline.
24 hours. They're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
24/7.
And
They
yeah, we're
will.
going to get some tips too, Chad. This is what I like about this broadcast. We don't have much, but what we have, we want to share with you. We want to help you because we're telling you these are some of the signs of loneliness. And then we're going to show you with time. If not, we'll pick it up next week. The things that we can do that's practical, Chaz. That's practical. That's going to help us with loneliness. But you touched on this one. So please talk about it again. We always do what?
Seeking constant validation, always wanting approval from others. And as I
You're lonely.
mentioned earlier,
You're lonely. That's
we,
lonely.
we're lonely. We don't feel like we can make ourselves happy. So we're reaching out to any and everybody to make ourselves feel good. And when we get enough of that, we feel better about ourselves. And a lot of people are in this predicament. And it's like, even if no one ever tells me that I'm good looking or I'm a good person or I'm a nice man or whatever, that's not going to dictate to me that if I live or die. But there are people in this earth, brother.
Many of us, and no, there's many of us like that, Chaz. We need validation. This is why we wear clothes when people tell us, or we get haircuts, or we have a certain dress code. When people tell us that, even on social media, when people comment on our posts, we need validation. And
Yeah.
because we're lonely, man, we're
Yeah.
lonely, and we don't want to discuss the loneliness that's going on. And so we sit behind our cell phones, we sit behind all of these gadgets that we have, but inside we're dying of loneliness. And if we're looking for loneliness in a person, we're never going to find it. It's all right. Loneliness is found. The cure to loneliness is found in yourself. But we don't look in ourselves. We want to have that other person to make us whole.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I was just going to say, me and you have this little joke, and I've done this a lot with some of the people I know. When I see them and they got a little haircut, I compliment, and man, they bright up like a Christmas tree. Brother Angelo says, it looks like being alone
In a crowded
in a
room.
crowded room. Had to train myself to put the phone down and go outside. Yes, put that phone down, brother. You have to put that
Yeah.
phone down, because if you keep sitting in that house 8, 9, 10, 11 hours on social
Yeah.
media,
Mhm.
listening to the news, listening to all this depressing stuff, it's going to make you go crazy. So yes,
Mhm.
put it down, go get some vitamin D, and just go out and live your life off of the cell phone, please. But thank you, brother D'Angelo.
Chaz, he's being transparent. See, a transparent person is a person like you and me and others who say, I struggle with this sometimes. I have to do something about this. But see, a hypocrite, a buffoon, an idiot, they won't,
Come on,
they're
brother.
not,
Come
they're
on
not
now.
going, no, because they're insane, man. See, this is a situation that I'm passionate about. And I hope people realize that we're all struggling with this. And
Yes.
instead of being honest about it, Chad, this is the part that hurts so bad. Instead of being honest about it, we look at ourselves and say, they're not talking to me. But yet we are, because we're talking to all of us, because we
Myself
all
too,
get
right?
lonely. We
Right.
all get lonely. So why would we sit around and act like we're not when we know for a fact we struggle every day with loneliness, but yet we don't know what to do with it? And this is why we know that we're lonely, because there's so many changes in our behavior. Sudden mood swings. You up one day, down the next. We happy one minute, we're sad the next. We're going to do this one day, we're going to do that. We're irritable. Irritability, it may indicate that We're just lonely, and no one wants to be honest about it, Chaz, but someone has to be honest about it.
Yes, and when we're irritable and no one's, like I said, giving us those pleasuring or nice things to say about ourselves, that's why we are irritable, because we see others. And sometimes let's be honest, okay? Some of us see other relationships with others and we feel
Mhm.
like, I wish I had that. How come
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
getting that?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why we start to become irritable and angry.
Mhm.
Uh, Brother Angelo typed at us again. He says, my question is where to get help.
There's a suicide hotline. Okay, not only is there a suicide hotline, but also, brother, this broadcast is helping us. You see, we don't have to go anywhere. We have to listen to the points that we're making to show us that the cure for loneliness is inside of us. You and I have the antidote for loneliness, and it's us. We don't need anyone to make us or validate us, because we should love ourselves enough to know that no matter what happens in my life, I'm okay with who I am. So I don't have time to be looking for a person or a thing or something. I am my own deity. So I'm happy with who I am. So I don't have a chance and time to be lonely, because I know how to make myself happy. It's my thoughts. It's what I think. And if you really want additional help, you can call Chaz and I, and you can eat what they call it, I am us, and we will also direct you, because some people may struggle with it. But there's a suicide hotline if a person is suicidal. But if you just want to talk about it, we can start a group where we talk about loneliness, you see. And
Yes,
this is why I
yes,
like brothers like that, where they're saying, where do we get help? Because we
yes,
know we're struggling. Mamas are struggling. Daddies are struggling. Sisters are struggling. Brothers are struggling. Children are struggling. Aunts are struggling. Uncles are struggling. We're all struggling. And we
yes.
don't want to be honest and say, I need help. And that's why our thoughts are so screwed up, because we don't know how to think about loneliness.
Brother Angelo wrote again. He says, that's why I leave the phone, because I was raised without one. Communication with people is hard for me, so I've been learning how to communicate with others. I want to just previously touch on what Brother Angelo just put, where he said, where can he get help? I'm here to have his back, because, brother, here's what we are in society. A person like Angelo who's seeking out help, there are sick individuals or sick people who say, oh,
Teach that.
Angelo is weak. He's a chump. He can't figure this out. Man up. Why is he so soft? No, there's nothing wrong with saying, I need some help. I can't fight this battle myself. So I'm here to say, for anybody who will and secretly put Angelo and other men down, there's nothing wrong for seeking out help. And I want to say to Brother Angelo, I applaud him for having the courage and strength to say,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am battling something that I need help with. And brother, you're not weak and you're not
yeah.
soft for asking for that.
He's navigating loneliness. Now, he asked a question. Now, watch this, Chaz. Watch this. He asked a question: ways to help deal with loneliness. Now, we're going to give you application. See, many of you go to these podcasts and broadcasts where you want to hear people spew off words that's making you feel good, flowery speech, putting us all on pedestals and lying through our teeth, making us feel a certain way. But Chaz and I, we're practical. So we talked about loneliness. Now, this is what we're getting ready to do. We're going to begin to show you practical ways of how to deal with loneliness. Here's the first one, Chaz.
Acknowledge and accept your feelings of loneliness. That's
Yeah,
number one. Don't fight it. Don't
exactly.
be in denial saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. You know there's something wrong, and
Yes, sir.
accept it.
Teach, man, teach.
And I was going to say real quick too, a lot of people are dealing with this. I believe this ties hand in hand with loneliness. A lot of us are lacking in D3 or vitamin D. Some of us, not all of us, but just some of us have to go out and get some more sunlight, because I'm telling you, when you go out and get sunlight, at least 10 to 15 minutes, you'll feel a lot better. Now, it's not going to cure all your issues, but that's somewhat of a start. I'll
Yeah,
let you go ahead and get the rest.
yeah. When we're talking about loneliness, and now we've already set the table with the signs of loneliness. Now we're telling you practical ways that's free that you can get help. Acknowledge and then accept it. Acknowledge it. They tell me this, Chaz. I've not been an alcoholic and all of that, so I don't know. But they say that when a person goes to these AA meetings, they say the first sign of recovery is you have to admit,
Yeah,
my name is Jahi Osaze, and I am an alcoholic. You
right.
see, accept that, own that. You know you're lonely. I
Mhm.
know I'm lonely, but you will not acknowledge your loneliness, because this thing up here has set us apart to where we won't even accept the fact when someone is teaching us. We can't even acknowledge that we have this problem. And if you're not lonely, I bet your children are lonely. I bet your
Mm.
children are lonely. I bet your nieces and nephews and your cousins and everybody else in your family is lonely. I bet your
Wow.
aunts and uncles are lonely. I bet your mama and your daddy are lonely. I bet your grandparents are lonely. So we must acknowledge our feelings of loneliness and then deal with this one, Chaz. If you
Identify the root cause of your loneliness.
yeah,
And
why? Yeah, why? That's the question, Chaz. Why? We have to ask. See, a lot of us know why we're lonely. Like you mentioned, we may want something and we can't have it, so we're lonely. See, so we must be honest and say, I'm lonely because I can't have whatever it is I'm looking for.
a
Some
relationship. Come on, say it, brother. A relationship. I had to say that because, brother, I think not 80% of us,
okay,
if we
teacher.
had a relationship, some of this would not be happening. I really believe that, brother. Do you believe that?
I don't think so. I think you're right in part and parcel. But I think that there are a lot of people who are in relationships and they're still lonely. See, a person is not going to fulfill that void. See, we're talking about someone to be around us. I'm talking about inside of your heart,
Okay.
inside of my heart, inside of my consciousness. That's where we're lonely. So, yes, we can get a person to lay up around us or to hold our hand. And there's nothing wrong with all of that. Yes, as a human being, we may want to have someone of the opposite sex,
Right.
hug us and all that. And that's fine. But
Right.
Chaz, I know a lot of married men. I know a lot of married women. I know a lot of people that are dating that's still lonely, man. So we're not addressing the issue. We're talking about something that is deeper than just you and I with the words we're using.
Right.
What is making, and most of us know what is making us feel that way. And when we find out what it is, then we must deal with it, man. We must deal with it.
C, connect with others. Make an effort to reach out to friends, family, or acquaintances. Brother, I put this on my notes too, and I got to push back on this particular part. Many of our friends and family, they don't listen. The problems that we're facing, brother, I hate to say this, they don't care.
Okay.
In fact, I think they're not going to tell me and you this, but in their heart, they're happy that we're dealing with these issues. A lot of us, our family and friends, don't care about these issues. Well, do you agree with that?
I agree with you 100% on that. They don't care about us. They don't care about our issues. But I'm saying for those who are lonely, if it's a friend, if it's something, whatever you have to do to get out of this funk of always wanting to be by yourself, thinking the whole world is out to get you, always looking under the bed for a boogeyman, always wanting to be by oneself, always thinking that the world evolves and revolves around ourselves. It doesn't happen that way. And I know there are good people out there. I know there are good family members in our family. I know there are acquaintances that we can socialize with so that it will help us with this loneliness. This is not the cure for loneliness, but this will help us, Chaz, because a lot of us don't want to even connect with other people. And that's why we are the way we are.
And I want to be clear. Like you said, there are a few people that may care, like friends and family, but I was just saying the majority of them, they could care less and they're more than happy deep down that we're going through these issues. Brother Angelo says, I ground myself by going outside with no shoes to ground my negative feelings. Yes, that's a secret some people don't know about. I'm glad you know about that. So a lot of us can't deal with the rejection because you or me to withdraw from others. That's my fear of communication.
Wow. This is his broadcast tonight. This is his broadcast because the things that he's saying is so true, Chaz, because a lot of us don't know how to deal with the self, you see. This is what it all boils down to. We don't know how to think, man. This is why one day we're up, the next day we're down. This is why we can't cultivate relationships. This is why we don't involve ourselves in what this thing says, positive groups. We get into negative groups or we don't want to be around groups. I've never seen people that get old and just want to be by themselves. I have never in my life. The human body is not made for that. Our minds are not made for that. But yet, many of us feel as though we don't want to involve ourselves in anything. And so we rather fight this monster by ourselves. And this loneliness is whipping us, man.
Yes, and you said on the screen, involve ourselves in positive groups. The two groups that I would think of is number one, call and see if you can get you an exercise buddy. If you can't jog, a walking buddy, walking around the park, walk around the gym. There's somewhere you could walk to get you some exercise. Or B, a movie buddy. Once a week, twice a week, go and catch you a
Do
movie. It doesn't have to
something.
always be every night, but
Do
maybe once a
something.
week. These are the only two positive groups. Or C, if you are religious, a church buddy or a Islam buddy or a Buddhist buddy, whatever you believe in. Those
Right.
are the three groups that I would suggest you go to. Do you
That's
have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you said just the perfect thing. But here, all these practical truths we're giving, Chaz. See, so if a person is lonely after watching this broadcast, they should have a sense of, you know what? I don't have to feel this way. I can make my own self happy. I don't have to look at myself as if the whole world is against me, because what I want to talk about is this one.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, okay, go ahead.
Focus on self-improvement. Spend time alone to work on personal growth.
Chaz, that go ahead, but I'll let you have this one. But I promise you, leave some for me.
Oh
I
no,
want to talk
you
about
could go, and I'll back up. I'll back
it.
it
Okay.
up.
Here is our problem. Let's just tell it like it is.
Okay.
Many of us are too involved in other things and other people, and we don't focus on the self. Every time
Okay.
I look around, people say it's all about working on the self. Now, people that know me know that I'm into spirituality.
Right.
And a lot of people that's in spirituality, they always talking about it's all about the self. And that sounds good. But they don't know how to work on the self, you see. They don't spend time alone to work on personal growth. They don't look at how they are some very, very angry people. We are some very bitter people. We are some very sad people. We are some very hurting people. We're hurting and we're having so much things that happen to us that we don't know how to focus on ourselves. And once we focus on ourselves, that should help us get out of this funk that we're in, because if we don't, we're going to die wondering, why did I live a life where I secluded myself and I felt sad and dejected all the time? No one should have to live like that, man.
Right. Nobody should. And once again, we spending time alone every day. We should mentally putting down in our head what we're lacking in, what we can do to become better. And it's not to try to outdo the next man or person. It's to make your own self better. Brother Angelo chimed again. He says, that's why I went back to college, for self-improvement for myself. That's excellent. And I forgot to touch up too on Brother Angelo. The hotline, if you do need to call them, sometimes they have groups to where once you go in, you get situated. They have, I guess, like a Monday through Friday thing. There's people who's just like yourself, where you sit around and talk, and there's classes and stuff you guys can go to together to get this stuff knocked out. But yes, don't be afraid to call that hotline if you need to, Brother Angelo.
And start a group yourself. Quit looking for other people to do what you and I can do. Quit reaching. Now, if you're sick and you don't know any better, you might have to do that. But we know people that we can call and say, hey, I want to start a group. And the group is going to be dealing with loneliness. And I just want people that are lonely. And let's talk about ways to help that. That in itself is going to help us, man.
Yes.
It's therapeutic, if you will. But many of us don't want to face the fact that we're dying, and we don't want to do the very thing that this G says. Set goals for avoiding loneliness. In other words, when I start feeling the way I feel when I'm lonely, I'm going to tell myself, I don't have a reason to feel that way.
Yes.
You see, because I'm in love with my consciousness, and so I don't need anything or anyone to get me through this loneliness. I can make myself happy. I can make myself sad. But it's the way I think is what is killing us, because we're not looking at the mindset, Chaz. There's a mindset with loneliness. If we don't deal with, it's going to continue to bring us into this vortex. It's going to keep dragging us in, because loneliness wants you to, oh, I'm so lonely, I could just die. Nobody loves me. Look at me. I have no friends. I have no family. The whole world is out to get me. I just might as well go do something to myself. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be around family. I don't want to be. So you see that mindset, as opposed to, I may feel a certain way, but I'm going to tell myself, I am not lonely, because I came into this world by myself, and you're going to leave this world by yourself. But you have to be happy with the self. And that's our problem. Many of us are not happy with the self.
G, practice meditation. This helps manage feelings of loneliness. We mentioned that earlier. If you do believe in some kind of religious practice, you say that this is what you believe in. This is supposed to help you. If you're a Christian, believing in God or Jesus, that's supposed to help you. Like you just mentioned, brother, if you're a spirituality, that's supposed to help you. So
Supposed to. Yeah.
it's supposed to. So you're supposed to practice what you preach. And if let me ask you this, brother, what do you say to the people who tried those practices, but they're not panning out to what they expect it to be?
Then you keep fishing. You keep fishing until you catch the fish. If that's not for you, go somewhere else, do something else. You have to find it. I can't tell you what to do. You can't tell me what to do. I can suggest and recommend, but we know in our hearts what we should do, Chazz. And many of us, even with our children, see, this is what I'm afraid of. Okay. I'm afraid that us old stogies, we sit around and we don't clear the path for our children to follow. And we don't have these kind of discussions with our children because our children become lonely. What if no one plays with you at school? What if you feel isolated? See, we don't have that discussion because we're too busy trying to chase a dollar, or we're too busy trying to do something that's not going to mean a lot to us. So brother Mike Angelo, he says this. He says assemblages are good. He says, but I never thought about starting a group. He said, it sounds good. We need to be heard. We do. You see, we always wait for other people to do what we can do ourselves. And that's why we have these images often, Chazz, when we show these images of people who are dealing with loneliness and suicide. And we show these types of images because we having people that are struggling.
Wow.
People look like us. And we have to have something to let them know this brother's life is spiraling out of control, you see.
Yes.
And sometimes he's probably lonely, and that's a part of life. What I'm saying is we can navigate through loneliness. We must embrace it because there's a silence within all of us. There's a solitude symphony. I know I'm being lofty in my words tonight, but there's a melody of loneliness. There's a melody of loneliness, Chazz, in our hearts. And many of us, we chronicle the stories of a lonely heart, man. Yes. And all I'm saying is there must be some type of solitudinary serenade where we must know how to think about loneliness. We can't just drown in it. We can't waddle in it. We must come out of it. And this is what we're trying to encourage people so that we don't have these kinds of days, because we all have days that we want to be healthy and well mentally, but every now and then we are going to have days like that. But how do you navigate through loneliness? We're telling you how, if you would just listen to us.
Right. And I was just going to say real quick, we all have those days where that brother just was. He was just pouring out his heart, crying, frustrated. Let me say this. When you have that kind of day, don't keep dwelling in it. Don't do that day 2, day 3, day 4. Do it once, get out of it. Because once you keep going back for day 2, 3, 4, your health and your mental health is going to go down the toilet. And then here you are having to go probably to the EMS. So please do not dwell in that day after day. It's okay to do it once, but don't keep dwelling in it day after day after day. H, pet companion may help companionship and emotional support. Yes, if you have the patience, if you have the funds, I would suggest people getting a pet. It can help around the house, someone you could talk to. Heck, I've heard some people say, brother, that pets are better than humans because they'll never turn on you. I've heard that saying. Come
on, Chazz.
But it's the truth. But yes, if you can't afford that, get a pet because it will help you. What about you, brother?
I think this is very, very practical. I love doing these kinds of broadcasts because these broadcasts, we don't only just tell you what the issue is. We always give practical solutions. But a lot of people don't want to hear these solutions. But to those who do, pet companion may help companionship and also emotional support. There's nothing wrong with this, you see. Now, this pet is not going to take away a loneliness, but at least it's companionship where thereby we can have that animal that's going to be there and support us, even though the animal can't talk. This is a beautiful thing because there are a lot of lonely landscapes, man. And we don't want to explore the wilderness. And this is why our ancestors, deities, people that have gone on before us, they had to deal with loneliness, and so do we. But we, at this point, we live in 2024, and yet we're still struggling. So that lets you know that many of us aren't interested in helping one another. But Chazz, we're here to help people because we know that we have a responsibility to our brothers and sisters because many of us are struggling with loneliness and we don't want to have this discussion. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say something now and I'm putting myself in this and I'll turn it over to you to read this and you can talk about it. But here's what I really want to say, Chazz.
Okay.
I feel sorry. I feel sorry for us as a people. I really feel sorry for us as a people because we're too busy interested in learning about, as I said earlier, comedians argue on social media. Somebody posting something that we like and we're putting a like, but yet we're lonely. Somebody saying something about what we wear to make us feel good. So we're always looking for that validation. And yet we will never get it because we don't want to get in tune with the self. So I feel sorry. I feel sorry for us as a people because we're not having this discussion. And yet most of us struggle and suffer with loneliness.
Yes, yes. I agree with what you just said, brother, about a lot of us are lonely. And on this point on the screen, it says that we are all we listen, we are all we need in this life. There's, like you said, we came in this world alone, we're gonna die alone. We have to say, you know what? No matter who comes for me, or no matter if nobody comes to help me, I have to figure this out on my own. Not that I'm Superman, not that I'm perfect, but it's that it's reality. No, we always want this feel good story where somebody comes on, they save the day, and we run out to the sunset. Brother, I hate to break this. Sometimes those stories don't pan out, and when they don't,
Yeah.
how do we respond? And for the ones who don't get those successful stories, we have to say, you know what? Nobody never came. So what? Let me make the best of this, and let me not, start smoking more, drinking more, or just getting involved with a whole bunch of heinous things. So we have to learn how to complete ourselves, basically.
That's well said, Chazz. And I'm going to add to that. You're all you need to have a fulfilling life. What I'm about to say now is heart-wrenching, but I have to say it.
Okay.
A lot of us are going to die. But here's what is important about this death that we die from. We're not going to die from an illness. We're not going to die from someone murdering us. We're not going to die for any other reason than what I'm about to tell you. And it all stems from loneliness. Here it is.
What's that?
Many of us going to die from a broken heart.
Ooh,
Yes, we are. We're going to die from a broken heart.
come on, brother.
No, and I have to develop that. We're going to die from a broken heart. And here's what I want to say. It doesn't have to be that way. See, we don't have to die from a broken heart, but we choose to because we don't want to get up off our lazy you-know-whats and do something about our loneliness. So we're going to die from a broken heart. And it's not so much somebody did something to us to break our hearts. We're going to die because our heart was broken all these years and we never got help for the loneliness. So the loneliness killed us, man. It wasn't a person that killed us. It's the loneliness that killed us, you see. And this is why we don't want to have groups like what we're saying now. We don't want to have people should be writing like Brother Matthew. We should have a group about this. We should talk about this. When are we going to meet? Let's do this. Let's do that. They're not interested in it because they want to die from a broken heart because we didn't know that you are all you need. I am all I need to have a fulfilling life. And we haven't heard that enough. These little girls are looking for this knight in shining armor to come because mommy and daddy hasn't taught them that knight in shining armor that rides in on the horse, that knight is not going to take that loneliness away from you, you see.
Right.
Well, this is why we have to have these kinds of discussions. And I hate to say these kinds of things, but
Right.
I say it because of love. I love our people. And yet it's true. Many of us will die from a broken heart.
Yes, I thought you were going to take it a step further. I thought you were going to say people were going to die from a broken heart of the expectations of life, where they expected it to come out a certain way and it totally went the opposite direction and they never recovered from that. That's where I kind of thought you were going, but that's still in the play too. I mean, some of us have dreams, aspirations. We want to become all these things, and we really do study hard, we go to college, we do all these things well. And sometimes they still don't pan out. And that's just how it is, brother. I hate saying that.
And see, I'd like to ask the question to us all that's rhetorical. And this is the question I'm asking myself and all of us. And it's simple. What happened to us that we don't know how to love ourselves? What happened to us that loneliness gets the better of us? What happened to us that We don't know how to navigate through this wilderness of loneliness when it comes upon us. What happened to us where we feel dejected, we feel saddened, we feel depressed, we feel suicidal when we're lonely?
Wow.
What happened to us that we don't know how to sit down as men and women and look at life and say, I know in this life we're going to have things come and go, but these things are not going to shape my heart to where
Right.
I'm going to die as a
Right.
lonely person.
Jay, it boils down to knowing how to think correctly when it comes to loneliness. Yes, when we say think correctly, meaning because off of an emotion, don't jump to do what you feel at that moment. Sit back and think, say, you know what, I feel this way, but I'm not going to do anything stupid, such as, and I hate saying this, I'm not going to go and jump off of a building because I'm angry right now. Sit back and make correct decisions, because here's the thing. A lot of other people are hearts and are invested too, meaning someone gets a phone call about you jumping off of a bridge. Your loved ones and stuff are probably going to lose their minds as far as like family members who are concerned about your well-being. But yes, make correct decisions and don't always jump off of how you feel at that exact time and moment.
Yeah, Chaz, we have to be honest too. Honesty is when we tell people what's going on and what's the truth about it. And the truth about the matter is, a lot of us ain't hearing what we're talking about. We could care. We don't care about, even though we know we struggle with it. We don't care about doing these practical things to help us. We don't even want to hear what we got to say. We would tune people like us out. Now, we were talking about other things. We would have people flying all over the woodwork, just coming out of the woodwork, trying to get involved in what we're saying. But it's just true, Chaz, that many people have been through so much in life
Yes.
that we have allowed life to kick us in the teeth, and we don't know what to do about our current situation. And here you have two men that's as practical as it gets. We are as practical as you're going to find, and people don't want to hear it. And the sad thing about it, the irony about it is, they know they struggle with loneliness. They know
Right.
it. And
Right.
so they won't do anything about it. And that's why, when it all is said and done, people are going to struggle until we leave this earth with loneliness, and loneliness is going to win because we didn't know what to do with that loneliness. And so therefore, that's what happens to us.
It says Mr. Angelo wrote again. He says change is tough, though it needs to be done. Yes, it's tough. Of course, it's tough. That's why nobody wants to do it, because it is tough. But I want to say real quick, like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, you said that we don't have a lot of comments jumping. Here's the thing. I've told you this time and time again. It's not about if we get 50 million or 60 million comments. If you get one or two people like Brother Angelo, that's all we're looking for. We're not trying to save the world, because most of the world doesn't want to hear. We're just trying to get that one, two, or even if it is 10 people, that small section of people who do want to hear it, to help them out. So that's what I think our messages need to be guided to.
Do you still have that poem, Chaz, that you read at the outset?
Yes.
Can you read that poem again? And for those who just joined the broadcast, we're talking about loneliness,
Sure.
isolated echoes, a journey through loneliness.
Yes, I have it. In shadows deep, where silence weaves, a solitary soul, the heart conceives. Loneliness, a haunting tune, echoes in the quiet of a lonely room. In the vast expanse of a solitude's art, a symphony of longing tearing apart. Isolation's dance, a silent plea. Aching hearts yearn to be set free.
Mm.
Join us now as we explore the depths of loneliness forevermore. In shared words, a refuge found in this broadcast, Hearts Unbound.
That right there is profound, Chaz. It really is profound. It's not only profound, it's prolific in that those words should be ringing through each of our souls. I
Yes.
have an image on the screen now with a sister on it, and
Yeah.
here's the irony. Many of us are smiling like this.
Right.
Many of us want people to think we are very happy, but behind that smile is loneliness. A
Mm.
lot of us think that because we smile and we say things that are witty and humorous and people may like us, we don't ever deal with what's going on the inside. So sometimes we smile, but yet we're very lonely. And
Yeah.
those signs that we mentioned earlier about being withdrawn, not want to be around people, those are clear indications of a person who's not dealing with loneliness, but this is a person that's lonely, man.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we don't know what to do with it. Now we have a couple of minutes left, so I know we got to wrap it up. But I don't know, whatever's on your heart, Chaz, you can say about
Yeah.
this broadcast and loneliness. But this is sad, man. But we got to deal with it.
Yes. Now, I usually don't do this, but this one is specifically for Brother Angelo because he was commenting a lot today. He wrote again. He says, "Make a great impact for me." I was just going to mention you, Brother Angelo. I know what you wrote today, and I appreciate what you wrote. Not that we're going to make fun of you. We applaud you because we're saying you need help, brother, and we're here to help you. We want you to get the help that you need. Uh fight through this if you can, because this is tough. There are people who will laugh at men like you for having courage like yourself, and we're not. We're here to say we thank you for having enough heart to come on this broadcast and say, I'm listening to this broadcast because I need help, and we appreciate that. Now, tonight's broadcast was simply about loneliness, suicide with our teens. If your parents listening to this, please check your children. Don't be so wrapped up in your own world to where you're
Mm.
just not caring about what they're doing. Make sure if they're complaining about something, try to tend to it quickly, because you don't want to get that terrible phone call or go in their room and see them in a terrible state. I had to listen to him one more time. He says, I sometimes feel lonely, but I take a walk to clear my head. You all make me feel better. I appreciate you too. We appreciate you, Brother Angelo, for writing that again. But yes, uh, come back next week. We have to, brother. We have to touch back up on loneliness, because especially in the African American community, a lot of us blacks are dealing with loneliness, and sometimes we try to hold it in and bottle it up. That's making it worse,
Yeah.
because you're making your mental health and everything just go down the toilet, and you shouldn't want that.
We
I,
say we want a good life, Chaz, but we don't know. Many of us don't know how. This is why we go to these different institutions to try to learn, but these institutions are not helping, because it comes back to what you said earlier. It all comes back to the self. We have to come back to what's inside of us. No one can make us but us. We should know that the self is the thing that's going to help cure loneliness. Because when you're happy with yourself,
right.
when I'm happy with myself, I don't have time to be lonely. Loneliness will never live in my heart if I'm happy with myself. Yeah, we miss people. Don't get me wrong. We miss people, but that has nothing to do with us feeling lonely and just waddling in this loneliness. And so, again, we want you to come back, tell a person about this broadcast, and let them know that we're going to talk about some more practical things we can do to avoid loneliness. Because we have too many people that look like us that are lonely. And
Yeah.
quit being Matthew. He didn't hog the show, but this brother was just writing left and right, because this show really, if you will, it helped him. And
Yes.
I hope it helped other people as well, whether
Mm-hmm.
they write or not. But we
Mm-hmm.
have to begin to realize that we're going to have to make decisions, to make the practical decisions to help us with what we're saying, Chaz. So
Yes.
again, this broadcast can be seen every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. The last week or so, we're going to do something on Black history. We may bleed that into March, because we know that Black history is important to us. So we wanted to do the Valentine's Day, and we wanted to do this about loneliness, because many people are lonely. So we wanted to encourage you. So please take this message to heart. And we want you to know that we care so much about you. That's why we put these broadcasts on. We're going to read the last comment from Matthew, and then Chaz will sign us off. And here is his last comment. Since he's honest and he's transparent, here he is.
So good to this, because I normally have a good space, but I stopped drinking and have nowhere to go. Made me feel better, but I miss the be with folks I know no more. Just in pain for the lonely feels gone away. That guys. What
Yeah.
do you have to say, brother? And I'll go ahead and sign off after you.
Okay, I'd just like to say to all of you once again, we appreciate you for tuning into this broadcast, and we hit hard every week because we love you, and that's why we speak this way. But we also want to always give you something to do about our subject matter. And tonight's subject is isolated echoes, a journey through loneliness. So we've given you practical things to do that will help you, that will help me when it comes to loneliness. But we must apply these things, Chazz, or else these are just words going in one ear and out the other, because many of our children are lonely, many of us are lonely, and because we're so lonely, we don't want to hear the truth. And that's a part that's sad and sickening. But we hope that someone besides Brother Matthew has taken these words to heart, whereby they can say, hey, this was very, very helpful to me. And now I'm a much better person after watching Adults Only.
Yes. And for the people who didn't get to catch it now, feel free to watch it on the playback. But yes, this was an interesting topic. That's something that we're all dealing with loneliness. It's frustrating at times. We don't know how to get the best of it. We fight and we wrestle with this thing day in and day out. But this is something that we can get through if we take the correct caution for it. I appreciate everybody who watched this broadcast today. I enjoyed this one. Once again, it was a topic tonight about isolated echoes, a journey through loneliness. That's all I got to say for today. I appreciate for coming on today.
All right.